It's a little wild to me that there's been 10 years of Apple Watch. I remember the first one being like the first piece of tech that I truly bought for myself as I was leaving for my freshman year of college. Fast forward, and I have here the $399 Apple Watch Series 10 to test out and use and take you through the biggest reasons to buy, and yes, a couple of reasons to skip. So here's the big story. The Apple Watch Series 10 has been redesigned, although if you ask pretty much anyone, they'll say it looks totally the same, and that is so fair, but you gotta know what you're looking for. It weighs less and is thinner, while the screens are bigger, and the wide-angle OLED display, a first for any Apple device, is meant to make the Apple Watch 10 easier to view off-angle. Thanks to the latest LTPO spec, the always-on display now refreshes once per second versus once per minute. From a health perspective, in addition to all the more familiar fitness tracking features, the Apple Watch Series 10 is set to offer sleep apnea detection. Faster charging and the ability to play music directly through the speaker are nice, albeit minor additional upgrades. So now that we have that overview, let's dig a little bit deeper into the pros and cons. First, I want to get some things clear about the redesign. I'm going to compare relative to last year's Series 9. So looking at both the rose gold Series 10 and the pink Series 9, you can see pretty clearly that the Series 10 is thinner. It's specifically 9.7 millimeters, which is 10% less thick. It's also more lightweight for the aluminum version, 1.1 ounces versus 1 ounce when I did the spec conversion, but more importantly, I actually feel the difference in my hands and on my wrist. I feel like it's sitting more flush and it's not getting caught here on my jacket. It's been super comfortable to wear overnight and also for yoga where I bend my wrist a lot, and honestly, it has this barely there feeling. If you've been holding out on Apple Watch because you were worried about the bulk, I truly think that you won't be disappointed by the design here. Now let's talk about the display, another big selling point, literally, because the displays are bigger. Sizes for the Apple Watch have changed from 41 and 45 millimeters to 42 and 46. I have the 42, and it has up to a 9% larger screen than before. Again, you gotta look close here, but on apps like News and Maps, I think it's pretty evident that you can see more information. Another really good demonstration is with the keyboard. It's subtle, sure, but we're talking about such a little tiny wrist computer that any little bit of space counts. For the most space, the 46 millimeter size is the way to go, and I can in fact confirm that there's 3% more usable screen on the 46 Series 10 than on the Ultra 2. If I had both, I would show you. That's just what I've been able to learn as part of the reviews process, and hopefully we'll be getting the 46 in eventually, and I will be able to make that comparison. Another quick thing about the display, it has the latest LTPO spec, which from an efficiency standpoint lets the always-on display refresh once per second versus once per minute. That's demonstrated really nicely from the new Flux watch face, though it's definitely most useful for things like timers or the workout time elapsed. The Series 10 also has Apple's first wide-angle OLED screen, and as I understand it, the pixels are engineered to emit light this way rather than traditional OLED this way, and this results in brighter off-angle viewing. I can see the benefit next to the Series 9, and especially thinking in the context of sports like biking or golf, it's actually a good improvement. Is it one that I think a lot of people would care about if they didn't know the difference? Maybe not. If anything, it's definitely a bit lower on the list of updates and priorities. Same could be said for the ability to play music out loud from the speaker now. Again, more niche, and I'm not sure if it's something that people were ever actually asking for, but I kind of like it for some background music on my bike rides. Higher up on the priority list would definitely be features and the overall software experience. Apple Watch Series 10 ships with watchOS 11. I linked my guide to all the features down in the description, but some of my favorites are live activities in the Smart Stack, the new Vitals app, the new Photos watch face, and finally, the ability to pause your activity rings for a rest day without awards penalty. Exclusive to Series 10 via watchOS 11 is a depth gauge and depth app carried over from the Apple Watch Ultra, but besides that, everything in watchOS 11 is available to Apple Watch Series 6 and newer, so reminder to check if your watch is eligible for a software update so that you can start using some of the new features. I guess I should ask if you've already downloaded watchOS 11. I'm definitely curious to know what your favorite feature is so far, so let me know in the comments below. There is one feature you won't be able to use at the time I'm filming this, and that is sleep apnea detection. Okay, we're switching to the at-home vlog cam because I've just gotten word that Apple has received clearance for sleep apnea detection on the Apple Watch Series 10, and it'll also be available for Apple Watch Ultra 2 and last year's Apple Watch Series 9. Now, just given the constraints leading up to the review embargo, I don't have the time to actually test it out myself. That said, I did recently test out the Galaxy Watch 7 and the Galaxy Watch Ultra. Go check that video. And upon testing the sleep apnea detection feature on those watches, it was concluded that I don't have sleep apnea, which is something I kind of already knew because I'm one of those annoying people who sleeps pretty soundly throughout the night. That said, this is a feature I obviously want to put through the paces on the Apple Watch Series 10, so stay tuned for more in-depth testing on sleep apnea detection. So once sleep apnea detection is enabled, after wearing the Apple Watch for at least 10 nights in 1 month, you'll be able to receive an alert of whether possible sleep apnea is detected based on nightly breathing disturbances. What's probably the best about a feature like this is that you can share a PDF very easily of your breathing disturbances with doctors from the Health app. I know that this is something that people have really been looking forward to. Sleep apnea is one of the most underdiagnosed health conditions out there, and just knowing that you could have the first step to getting treatment is huge. This takes me to probably my biggest disappointment with the Apple Watch Series 10, and that is that the blood oxygen app is disabled, as Apple is still wrapped up in a patent lawsuit with health tech company Masimo. An import ban rolled on by the US International Trade Commission said that Apple needs to ditch the SpO2 sensor in order to keep selling watches, so that's what they did. With all of the redesign work that clearly went into the Series 10, it's just too bad that the pulse oximetry tech couldn't be reworked in a way that avoids the patent violation. I hope we'll get an update on this soon, but for now, it is a bit of a rain cloud on the Apple Watch Series 10 launch party. Now, I just know some people will definitely be saying the same about the fact that the Apple Watch Series 10 has the same 18-hour battery life of every Apple Watch before it. Though I wish 10 years later, the flagship Apple Watch could last more than 1 day on a charge. Come on, we know what we're getting at this point. I personally default to the Apple Watch Ultra almost exclusively because of the longer battery life. Luckily, there are a lot more portable Apple Watch charging solutions available these days, and Apple did offer us a consolation: faster charging. With a bigger and more efficient charging coil inside, the Apple Watch Series 10 can charge 80% in just 30 minutes. The estimate for previous watches was 80% in 45 minutes. Of course, I'm also a fan of the low power mode for extending the battery life by disabling the always-on display and some other battery draining features. So should you get the Apple Watch Series 10 based on everything we discussed? I think the redesign makes a difference. The watch is more comfortable, you can see more of the screen, you can see the screen better off angle, and I mean, just look at this rose gold color, you guys. Other options for this year include silver and a polished jet black color. I don't have those yet, unfortunately, but I just thought they're worth mentioning. But also the optimized watchOS 11 experience and faster charging are certainly worthwhile, and this is the Apple Watch to get for most people. I can very easily make justifications for the value of the Apple Watch SE 2 and the premium benefits of the Apple Watch Ultra 2 on the other end of the spectrum, especially in that new satin black color. But overall, this is a very sweet spot for a flagship. As for me, 10 years later, I'm really impressed by how far the Apple Watch has come. I truly mean that. The number of sports it can track, the sleep data, the safety features, the accessibility features, the personalization. I don't think that there's a more well-rounded smartwatch experience anywhere else. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments. I've linked the Apple Watch Series 10 below if you happen to be interested in buying. Otherwise, you can see my unboxing over on our socials at Tom's Guide. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.